Hello and welcome to my channel of trauma healing and self-growth with Claudine. Today I have a story to tell. It's a joyous story. I feel I'm ready to tell my story. And in telling my story, I want to inspire one or two people that might be going through a similar challenge, and see if they can learn a thing or two about how I dealt with my situation, and so that we can keep thriving and heal from all the traumas we have, that come from all of things of life thrown at us. So the story I want to share today is about my marriage. How the heck did I get married? Before you judge me too, before you judge me, just take your time to listen to my story and hear why I did what I did and why I went through what I went through and how I get myself out of the situation. So how did I get married? Most of the time when people get married, they have this process where you have to fall in love with somebody and, get to know somebody and then get married with them. That's not how my story went. So I got married to somebody I was introduced to about 2 months. We had a conversation going on about 2 months. In that 2 months, we decided to meet face to face. I traveled to meet him in Quebec. He was coming from US. I was living here in Victoria, BC. And then I went to meet him face to face. We spent a couple of days together to get to know each other. And by the time we leave, we had both agreed that it was the best that we put ourselves into this adventure and get married and start a life together and build a future together where we have kids and so forth. So during that 2 months period where we talked, I thought he was the right guy because I felt like we had same ambitions. We both wanted a family. We were coming from same country. We had same culture, same religion. From the conversation, it sounded great. And I was in that time and point in my life where I felt that marriage was the best option. I was living in this new culture, knew everything. The dating life was confusing for me, and coming from the culture I come from, whereby we value marriages. I thought that it was the best option. I found it as a protection. If I get married to this guy who came to me with a marriage proposal, I thought that it was the best option for me to feel protected in this new country. And I felt ready to start my own family and not live alone any longer. That I was away from my family, friends. So the support system was not there. I thought if I had this marriage, I'll build my own support system and make life for myself and my family and my future here. So as soon as we decided to get married, he had to leave America to come here. And by the time he left America, he was given a 7 days visa. So in that 7 days visa, we had no choice other than just to get married within that period of time so that he can stay here legally. And that's how I got married. As soon as I started that marriage life though, within months in that marriage, I started to feel and see that I might have made the wrong decision to marry this guy because the life we were living as a couple was wide different from the conversation we had. We never had really a time to build that trusting relationship as a couple, to have proper communication so that we can build that future together. So we lived together for 3 years, and those 3 years were the worst time of my life. I was very depressed. I was challenged in so many things, while at the same time I was still going to my school. I finished my school I was doing a psych degree back then, so I finished my final year. Within that year, I got pregnant with my daughter. And when my daughter came in the picture, I knew that I had to figure out things together for myself, of a way I have to get out to get myself out of that trap so that I can be here and be able to raise my daughter. I had to be monthly stable enough to be here when she comes, and I couldn't being in that marriage. So I had to come up with a strategy of how I'll have to exit that marriage by the time my daughter is coming so that I can be healthy for her. So when I got pregnant with her, I was sick the whole 9 months while I was still going to school. I finished my final year, but because I had no chance to have a practicum experience in with my degree, I had zero experience to bring out to look for a job. So I had to find another alternative at the same time. When I finished that degree, I had to take a healthcare assistant diploma for 7 months for me to open the doors for jobs that were present in my city. So when I took that diploma, I was looking into studying working in healthcare, uh, long-term care as a healthcare assistant. So that was my plan B. While I was in the midst of that program, before I started the practicum, we had to do practicum for 2 months. That's when my daughter was born. So I had to stay at home at least for 4 months to nurture my daughter and then go back to finish the practicum within 4 months. So during that time period, so I was still dealing with that challenges in my marriage, and that's when I decided to leave. The first time I tried to leave, I stayed in a shelter for a couple of weeks. During that time period, that's where I had a lot of pressure coming from families, friends, relatives asking me to go back to my husband, because that's what happens in our culture. You deal with the things at home. So I listened and I went back, only to come back a few months later, and I left for good this time. So when I left, I spent about a month in the shelter before I could find a place of my own. And at the same time, during that time, I was still looking for a job. I was trying to find a foot in the door out there so that I can be able to work and provide for my family. And the post period of leaving marriage and the time that followed until the divorce time, it took almost 2.5 years to have that divorce pronounced. And during that period of 2.5 years was the most critical time of my life, because not only I was being a single mom, trying to find food and the system, how I could get to work. At the same time, going to court during the separation, dealing with the court system, which most of the things I had no clue how to deal with. So there was a lot of emotions involved. There was a lot of highs and lows, but because I was so determined to leave that space, to leave that marriage that was making me feel like trapped in this marriage that was not working for me. I knew that if I have to be here for my daughter, I had to leave and leave fast. So during that time period, it was not easy. I had to deal with a lot of craziness during that time following after separation. I become popular in my city, and relatives and strangers, people I don't even know. I received the calls from everywhere. People trying to make me reasoning with them that I have to go back into the marriage, that I have to figure out how to make it happen, make it work, and blah, blah, blah. And despite that one, also I was going through challenges of fighting, dealing with social services and the police and everything combined, because my ex was making everything really hard for me. And despite me, what I wanted was just to get the head out of there and be able to build myself and be there for my daughter. but we were not seeing it the same way. So the period that followed was really most critical, and I'm glad that eventually I went it through and I came out victorious. So anyway, so now that I think about it, now that I have healed and I'm able to tell the story and I'm able to laugh when I tell the story, I can't help to think back while back when I was in high school, in my fourth year, fifth, and sixth year in high school, how I used to be teased by my classmate, the most of the girls we were in school together because we were in boarding school in those 3 years of seniors high school. We were living in boarding school, and boys and girls, and most of the time I remember during the class time seeing most of the boys in my class fighting with each other to sit close to me. I remember we used to sit by two people on each desk, and on my desk, there will always a fight in between boys who will try to sit next to me. If a boy this morning sit there next to me, break time there will be another one who want to sit there. Lunch time there will be another one, and even outside my classes, boys from other classes, they always wanted to come to talk to me. They always wanted to come in my space whenever they had a chance. I don't know what that was. I was a quiet girl minding my business. I was very ambitious. I was just looking after my studies. But boys in school wanted to come and talk to me and be close to me and whatever. Because of that, girls in my class used to tease me that as soon as we finish high school, Claudine, you'll be the first to get married. But that's not what happened. When we finished school in 2002, yes, I got some proposals, but each time I say no because marriage back then was not in the picture for me right away. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to do something for my life. I wanted to do something extraordinary. I wanted to study and become successful before I could think about marriage. So that time was not the right time for me. Till I come to Canada, that opportunity, studying opportunity showed up in 2007, and I came to Canada to study. So when I got here, I got that school, and then I got into the new system, new culture, new everything. Life was lifing, was challenging. So when this guy showed up with the marriage idea, I said, yes, let's do this. If you're mature enough and what you're saying and you want to build a family like I am, we will make it work. We'll make it happen. And that's how we got married. But the marriage itself was a different story. It was challenging, was depressing. It was a failure for me during those 3 years of marriage I stayed in. Luckily for me, I saw it firsthand. It didn't take long to leave. I left when my daughter was 9 months. I had nowhere to go. I had no job. I was still fighting to make life for myself, but I knew that if I want to be here for my daughter, if I want to be here for my future, if I want to be somebody, I had to leave that marriage. It was not working for me, and there was no reason for me to keep fighting for it just for the sake of keeping a status, just for the sake of um, showing an image outside when I was crying every day, every night. It was not worth it. So I chose myself, I chose my daughter, I chose my future, and I left that marriage. I tried it, it didn't work, and I left it behind. So, mind you, though, when I decided to leave and when we were going through one of our craziest time where the emotions were running high, where we were dealing with the court stuff, dealing with the social services, dealing with the police, I never ever, not even once, ever stopped my ex-partner to be in his daughter's life. I never, not even once, stayed in between him and his daughter, because I knew how important it is for children to have both parents in their life. I know how greatly impacted my life was without having my daughter when I grow up. I lost my father at such young age, and without having him in my life, it really impacted me so much that I didn't want the same situation to be to my daughter. So I say, if yes, things are not happy and are not working between the two of us, but that should not be a reason for my daughter not to have his father in her life. And that decision I made, it was the best decision, because now when I look at her and the relationship she has with her father 10 years later, after that divorce, that separation, I know that I made a good decision. She has both parents in her life. We are both present in her life. She get to see both of us. And she's having the best time of life for herself, and I'm happy that she has both of us together. So the reason why I'm sharing this, my story, is for somebody who might be going through a similar challenge, who might be going through marriage difficulties, not sure if they should leave, if they should stay for the sake of their children and so forth. It's not worth it to stay in a marriage where you are not happy. It's not worth it to stay in a marriage where you are crying every single night. It's not in marriage. It's not worth it to stay in a marriage where you are losing yourself every single day. You're losing your self-esteem. You're losing your confidence. You're losing your ability to build a future for yourself. If you're not happy with that marriage, it's possible to be a single mother and be successful. It's possible to be a single mother and be a good parent. Possible to be a single parent and still build a relationship with your children's other parent for the sake of the children's best life. I did it. It was not easy. It was very challenging, but I made it through because I knew who I wanted. I wanted to become, because I had ambitions and I wanted the best life for my daughter. But I didn't want to have to do that for the sake of destroying my life forever, for the sake of keeping a marriage that was not working for me. So that's my story. That's how I made it through. It was challenging, but I made it through. It was difficult, but by grace of God, I made it through. Now I'm here to tell a story. So I hope you enjoy my story and it helps anyone who might be going through similar challenges. And let's keep building a better future for our kids, for our future generation. It is possible. Don't keep being trapped in a marriage that is not working for you. It's not worth it. Take care, everybody.